We are here. We are back. TBA podcast. Back at it with you. I'm Pej. My partner in crime, Mo, over there.
How you doing, everyone?
He's got that cute new fade, looking nice. I like it. Um, we have an awesome guest for you guys today. Uh, an artist out of Maryland, my old stomping grounds. Um, and he's here to share some thoughts and on the situation and the crisis in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as talk about his art. Without further ado, let me welcome you, Lil Gyptian Wolf. Welcome to TBA Podcast, my man.
It's good to
Welcome to
be
the podcast. Yeah.
here. It's good to be here, Pej.
Appreciate you, man. What's let's start with your background. You were talking off air about that you created that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had art class. And right now I'm taking two courses at my college and stuff, and I'm using them to my advantage. And one of the segments that we had to do was create like a pattern thing, and then add our own like kind of theme in the middle. And I kind of went into depth on a little bit, but there's still like some simplicity within it. I know my head is kind of covering the other square. This one, on the bottom right, you can see it's like the top view of a pyramid, and the one above it is like a side view. One on the left is the Eye of Horus, and the bottom left is an Ankh, which represents eternal life.
Wow.
Very nice, brother.
I love that. And you have the eye, which is interesting because that's kind of like part of like we emphasize the third eye as well.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that what that is?
That's the Eye of Ra, isn't it? That's
Yeah, Eye of Horus, actually.
of course.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it doesn't really like represent a whole lot about like encouragement and stuff. But everyone like kind of shows creativity in different ways. I think that's what matters.
That's exactly that is what matters. So let's talk about that because you were mentioning that you were infatuated with Egyptian history and art and so tell me because you're Iranian, right? So and that was that's very interesting to me. And at what age did you kind of start discovering like Egyptian
I
sculptures and art?
I think when I was 5, the earliest was when I was 5. Um, I honestly don't know I think my parents took me to a museum like I think Smithsonian,
Yeah.
a couple Egyptian museums, and that's where I grew my love for it because it was just unlike anything I've ever seen before. It was a whole different vibrance. It was a whole different story. How people like read from left to right, and us Persians, we read from right to left as long with like Arabic and other languages and stuff. But this is like side to side and up and down and diagonal, and it was different, and
Yeah.
that's why I loved it.
What do you remember what you saw, like what specific like art you saw that like really drew you in?
I think, not to sound cliche, but King Tutankhamun's tomb, or something like that was like, or a replica or some sort. Well, it wouldn't be a replica if it was in a museum, but yeah.
No, I used to, fun fact, I used to volunteer at the Smithsonian when I was there for like a hot minute, and then they're like, okay, you're like touching stuff, get out of here. So
It's so tempting. It's so tempting. Little tiny artifact, and you're like, they wouldn't notice if it went missing, right? Among artifacts.
like night at the museum shit. But
Yeah.
um
It's a little more evil Indiana Jones, I think, is what that is. Stealing the artifacts.
Raider of the Lost Ark.
were you born in Maryland?
I was born in Tehran.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
How old were you when you left Iran?
I think I was 2.
Okay.
I was born in an adoption agency. Um, and I think I was like I think I was uh like just a month old when my mom like met me. When my like adopted mom met me.
Mm.
Um, and that's all I want to say about that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Just,
yeah, absolutely.
like, yeah,
Um,
I'm not really people if I'm not really that closed off about my adoption and stuff.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Whatever you're comfortable with. I was just curious. So have you been back? Have you been able to go back to Iran since you left?
Um, yeah, we went there a couple summers and stuff, and it was great seeing my friends over there and my grandparents and uncles and cousins and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
how things with the revolution if they hit, it's difficult, I guess, when whoever we all have family back home, we all have
yeah.
friends back home, and it's this last year and a bit has been pretty difficult. How's it been on your end?
I'm not gonna lie, like I really miss my country. I really miss my home. I'm like and like I haven't been able to go back since I was 18 because my mom was scared like they might take me to Sarbazi thing.
Hmm.
And I'm lucky enough not to do concours and all of that. But yeah, I miss my home. When I'm in America and stuff. I'm in America and stuff, and don't get me wrong, like I appreciate living here and stuff, but I just want to go back home sometimes. And it's like, because it's so much different than it is here. Um, all the bazaars, the culture and stuff, and my family that I can't really see and stuff. And it's like, it kind of like, it makes me sad, but it also like pisses me off in a way because it's like, I'm here. Some people are throwing shit at me, and it's like, want me to go back home so bad. It's like, I want to go. Like, stop the war and then I'll happily go back. I'll keep all
Yeah.
my connections, but I'll happily go back and stuff because
Hmm.
there's way
There's
better.
definitely yeah, there's definitely something about Iran that um, it just feels different. Today I saw something in my feed on social media. It was Darband, just videos of the restaurants and in
Mm.
Takhtaké they're on the river and the all the lavoshak and the sour fruit on the side there, and it's just such a vibe, right? It's absolutely unbelievable. But everything about Iran is like that. Everything about Iran is like that. Darband is that way, and then you go to Tajish and it's a totally different thing. I was talking to someone yesterday how much I miss visiting. It's been a minute since I've been there. It's been a few years, so I think we all feel that homesickness. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been back since I was 8. So it's
Wow.
yeah, so that's the whole thing. But I definitely I'm trying to lose like 30 pounds because I'm gonna gain 100 when I go back, and I'm just gonna eat everything.
Oh, the
And
no,
the
no,
food, dude, I just wanna like yeah, that's low key like one of my own like guilty pleasures is to just go to the bazaars and just get 6 of everything and
Mm.
just like yeah. I saw the latest thing I saw. It was this they make like it's like a gourmet kebab sandwiches.
mm-hmm.
I had never had that, and then I mean I've seen like kebab in like in Lavash here, but that's not the same. But like it's like seeing the fresh like barbecue. It's like in fresh barbecue, and it was just like God.
And the stuff too. Like we went to this one restaurant in Tabriz, and
Mhm.
they had this like this insane lamb chop that was just so.
Ah,
Yeah.
dude,
Shandi's
yeah.
made that really famous, and people still name it after that restaurant, Shandizi.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The lamb
The,
chops, yeah, they're really good.
pizza-
I make them. If you guys ever come up to Montreal, I'll make you some. Absolutely.
All right, Mo. We'll come to your house. Stop inviting us. Oh,
Oh,
all right.
I think we
I
lost him.
yeah, yeah, we did. He'll but yeah, hopefully we get him back on. But yeah, it's to continue on that point. He's Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. You see the bad parts, and then you see the when and I'll bring this up when he's back on. But when he was talking about uh, I used to trust I used to trust people like that.
Mhm.
There's something that to learn from that, man. Like
Yeah.
we tend to think we have to. There's something wrong with us trusting people, right? But
Mhm. Mhm.
it's really wrong. What's really the issue is the person that abuses the trust, not the
Yeah.
fact that we are the child in us wants to love and wants to create a bond with someone, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we do ask ourselves, right? Like we beat ourselves up a little bit and we go, oh, why did I trust this person or whatever? And I think there is an onus though, right? Like there is a bit of an onus on you to recognize the world around you. It would be great if we could trust everyone, right? Like
Yeah.
the bond that you and I have, or there's others that we know. But yeah, it's a pretty fucked up world, dude. And there's a lot going on that you realize very quickly that yeah, you have to have your guard up a little bit. So I get that sentiment. I get the idea of why did I trust? Because we know we're in a
I
shitty world.
I get it, but I guess I'm saying like it's uh it's an unnatural it's like it doesn't feel natural to think that way. You have to kind of get calloused to think
Yeah,
that way, right? So, and that's the part I'm saying is, and you're right. I'm not being naive about it. I know that not everyone is going to be in your best interest or even in the bettering humanity's best interest. But um, it's it's that point, like the when we have to make that switch from uh the innocent, right? When we're
yeah,
like when we're just like, wait, why does everybody have agendas and then as soon as that happens, it's like, oh, all right.
yeah.
Like I guess that's what we call becoming an adult. but but it's too bad. I'm gonna why don't you talk let's talk about that some of the comments that we have been receiving on our last little promo. It's not to even give it the light of day, but I it's like I want to talk about it, but I also am like, are we just feeding the beast by talking about it? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I think anybody with an inkling of a conscience that's been looking at what's been going on has been commenting from the heart and from decency has been attacked by hardcore pro-Israel people. Like it's just a fact, right? You've got people coming at you. If you raise any questions, it's really all the same arguments. It's have you heard of have you heard the word Hasbara before? It's
no.
no, it's like a debating, arguing tactic that there's literally manuals that the government of Israel makes available to students, university students, people that want to learn how to advocate for Israel. They they have this. It's basically how do you argue with people online? How do you contend with a lot of the statements that are out there? And once you read that manual, basically, you can go on. There's a couple sites you can go and request, and they'll send it to you. Once you end up reading that, and then you go through these comments, you get triggered far, far less because you realize that all they're doing is just going to the playbook, right? Instantly there's well, we offered them land in the past and they didn't want to agree. This is our homeland; it's not theirs. They're all terrorists. Like these are things that end up coming up, and yeah, we received a lot of these nasty comments, but that's okay. It means that we're standing on the right side of this issue. If you have fascists coming to you and getting upset and attacking you, to me that's pretty good. Like if I was alive in the early 40s and Goebbels came at me, hey man, I'd know that I was on the right side of things. If a Nazi sympathizer came at me, I'd feel pretty good about the situation. So
Mhm.
um, That's kind of how, that's my take. That's how I
Yeah,
see it.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. It's to me, I'm always like, okay, people have the information that they have on the matter, and it's come from either a corrupt source or not, right? And it's like I try to say, okay, I know that, right? I understand that. And then but you use the word argument, right? Which is to me, I my goal in every uh encounter with someone who wants to counter my POV or counter where I'm coming from, my only goal is to not allow it to become an argument. And like I'll try to listen to them, even though I know what they're gonna say is it's not fact checked, or it's not even true necessarily, like to and to me it's like a practice on patience on my end, and I'm just like, okay, say what you need to say, like that song. And then I just say, listen, I'm just going to leave you this article. You let me know if you've seen it before, or what your thoughts are on it. And I don't really try to say much myself, right? Because I know that I don't know a lot of things, and I know that I'm learning every day from yourself and from others who are much more educated on these matters than I am. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a seat at the table. It means that, if anything, people that are on my level on this are the ones that should be at the table, because we need to have these discussions with the people who are ignorant on these matters, and who do need to know. um but to go back to your point, I think that for me it's always like, okay, you're coming at me hot, you're coming at me, with a take that it's already feels like it's conclusive, like you're not looking to be having a discussion. You're more so trying to just tell me that, like, in this case, right, in the case of this comment, it was like playing the victim's card, right? It felt like they were playing the victim, right? It seemed like.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to quote it. For people who've seen it, you know what we're talking about. Otherwise, you can go find it on our page.
But
But
here, but the whole victim thing, doesn't that piss you off though, bud? Like,
but that's it does. But it does. But what I'm saying is, it's the idea of it's using the victim from another atrocity to justify this atrocity. Does that make sense?
okay, yeah, that's really shitty for someone to do. But my question is something else. When was the last time you saw a victim be able to shut off electricity, water, internet, communications, and bomb the shit out of, with over 25,000 tons of explosives, equivalent to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, so nuclear
Yeah.
weapons?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many times does a victim able to do that to their oppressors? And that's the thing that pisses me off more than anything, is you've got these people coming on playing the victim. They're playing the victim, and they're playing ignorant, my friend, because that is the tactic. The tactic is, oh, hold on, I'm completely oblivious as to what's happening. Explain to me where you're getting this information. And I see it as disingenuous. I will accept ignorance as a defense until your very, very early 20s. Beyond that, you have absolutely zero reason to be that ignorant about what's going on in the world and with information that's readily available. When you have a 75-year occupation and 75 years of brutal
Yeah.
apartheid, there's enough information. There's 130. You know what? Forget about the news. You don't trust the news. You want to be ignorant with the news. You just like listening to your own little vacuum of space. That's fine. Why don't you go read the 131 UN resolutions that have been passed against Israel with the apartheid and the settlements and the occupation and everything else that they're doing? So no other country has this many resolutions that have been that have been ratified against them, and the most recent one was last week. So
Yeah.
when people come to you, because that's the tactic here, the tactic here is, how do we create enough confusion right? In order to get the result that we want. When there are so many atrocities happening on a daily basis, when hospitals and schools and chemical weapons and all that sort of thing are happening on a daily basis, when you've got leaders coming out straight up saying we are committing genocide, they
No,
have
no,
not been shy about it. They've said it.
yeah.
So if you are feeling as though if you're ignorant to what's going on, that's a chosen ignorance. The other side of that is what they try to do is they try to put out this conflicting information and the misinformation to confuse things. Because as soon as you come, you're now talking about the conflicting information. You're talking about, oh, can you? Because I remember we talked about something in the show last week, and you had some people asking you for like, can I get the article? Can I give it?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, there's an amazing website called Google. You can actually go in there and in the search bar in Google, you can type in and you can find it. But why are they asking you for it? They're asking you for it because now the conversation is not about the fact that Bibi Netanyahu last Saturday, a week ago today, literally referred to a verse in the Torah / Bible saying that he's going to commit genocide and kill every man, woman, and child and baby and animals. Um, Now you're talking about, oh, where did you see the source? Is that the right translation? Where does it go there? And then now the conversation is steered clear because guess what? There's going to be another atrocity tomorrow. And before you've actually settled the argument or the conversation or the discussion on that point, now you're talking about the next one and they're going to hit you with, well, I don't know. Are you sure that that's what it was? Or what about October 7th? Or why don't we talk about the leaders of Hamas and that they have millions of dollars in US? Can we stop? Can we stop about all that and just talk about the fact that there are babies being bombed, that you're on a daily basis, you've got parents running into the hospital with garbage bags full of limbs, seeing if they can reattach them to their children. Like, why are we talking about something that they can go search and Google themselves and see? It's right there, right? But instead they want to draw you into that conversation because now you're not talking about the real issues. Maybe it's me because I'm an old cynical bastard, but that's the way that I see it.
It's not being cynical. I think you're not. Let me rephrase. What your frustrations come from the notion that you just mentioned, and that is like after a certain age, it's on you to figure it out, to figure out what's really happening. What I find astonishing is that the idea of I say something, and Elika Bonin posted something about this today that I reshared on my story. But children are children, right? That statement. Children are children. And then there was, and then
Another
you say,
another nugget of wisdom from Elika Laban. Absolutely, yes.
uh,
Children are children. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. But it's simple. It's simple though. Like that's the thing. We sophisticate the matter with our
Yeah,
own walls of thinking, right? It's like
yeah.
it's the let's call it for what it is, dehumanizing, right? It's not considering humans as on the same playing field. Like we're all in this fucking planet together. Like none of us
Yeah.
are, like not my whole take on all of this, as unpopular as it is that these borders were created at one point in history, right? These borders were created at
These
any.
borders weren't. These borders weren't. In 1937, borders were created. Since then, it's just been Israel land grabbing and shrinking things. But yeah,
But I'm saying though, even the borders in
yep,
1937, it was a group of people
yep.
who decided that okay, from this point to this point is theirs, this point to this point is ours, blah blah blah, and I'm saying the idea of it being human made, it's created, but why do we always create rules and on things that didn't actually previously cause problems or exist until greed and power became a thing, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not dismissing uh, the idea of taking things from other people. That is a crime. I'm not saying that that is not a crime. That is absolutely a crime. But the precursor to all of that is the fact that we kind of accept things as if like they are Teflon, right? Like these ideas that have become what they've become because of choices that were made by people in history, right?
Mhm.
And it's all relative. Like this whole damn thing is relative. I'm zooming out of Israel and Palestine right now. I'm not talking about that
Mhm.
anymore. I'm talking more planet.
Yeah.
We're all Pangeans, right? At the end of the day, like when we stop putting up all these walls, we become human beings, and and then to me, I'm just, I don't know, it baffles my mind that we don't acknowledge that before we talk about all the other stuff, which are valid. I'm just saying, let's acknowledge that at least, because then at least it humanizes everyone. Then you can at least maybe have a healthier conversation about the real atrocities that are happening. And to me, that I feel like is missing in a lot of these discussions, because now when you started from after the borders were created, not with Israel again, I'm talking about in general. When you
Mhm.
start talking about this stuff after uh, the borders were created, then yes, then it becomes more combative. It's more prone to become combative, because it's like we're not talking about the genesis of it all. The origin of it all is that none of that existed. So it's, if we're gonna talk about history, let's fucking talk about the whole thing, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's all of this started at a point. There was an inception with any of these borders and any of these landmarks. I mean, look at the Persian Empire. At one point, we were, like it was a whole, almost all of Asia, right? And then you
Mhm.
know this better than I do. But now, right? Iran is fighting for what? We're fighting for keeping the Persian Gulf, right? We're fighting for keeping, like, it's like again, an empire had the entire most of Asia under Persia, and it's been chipped away at again, fairly or unfairly, or justly or unjustly. It has happened, right? And
Mhm.
and it's just like, let's forget the feelings about it for a second, and just talk about the logical aspect of it, and that is that someone, whether they were a good leader or a horrible one or somewhere in between, they made a choice with a group of people to draw the lines on the map, and it's
Mhm.
like, and when we simplify it to that point, to me it allows a surface of conversation that's a lot healthier, to
Mhm.
at least listen to the person you're talking to, and um that I feel like right now, especially right now with this crisis, no one is listening. Everybody is just saying, the five pieces of information they've learned over their lifetime, um
Mhm.
as no, but this is what I learned here and here, and then that's wrong, and no one is listening, and it all comes from the notion of, um we're not looking at the system, we're looking at what's mine, what's yours, and again, I don't want people to confuse what I'm saying with what I deem as an atrocity, and it is Netanyahu and his crimes against humanity right now. That is an absolute abhorrent act of authoritarian and land grabbing, as Mo mentioned. It's using 3,000-year-old ideas in biblical form to justify his actions, which he knows is just misuse of it. He knows that he's just using that to continue to fool the masses. Um, the same way that Khamenei did with the Islamic Republic. It's and Khomeini. Um, all of that to say, and I know it's long winded, but all of that to say this: we use religion, we use borders, we use things that have been created after we were born, right? As human beings, as babies, as sucklings, as mentioned in that quote that you brought up, um, to then try to justify the argument. right? To try to say I'm right. But the real issue is no one's fucking listening to each other, right?
The biggest issue is the patriarchy, right? The biggest
But yeah,
issue
and that
is,
comes from the same point I'm making. But yeah, it comes from
yeah,
this ownership of ideas, this ownership of certain part of the planet saying this is the truth and this is your land. You know, America does it all the time, right? Like the so
right.
what I'm saying though is, you know, when it ends up costing children's lives, shut the fuck up and go back in line and go check your morals before you come talking to me about what's yours and what's not, right? It's
Yeah,
like that. It's not about what's yours and what's not. It's about children dying. Like that's
yeah.
the priority. That's the damn priority. And as soon as we start to look at it as that, it's going to help a lot. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, 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 no. That's perfect. I know it's just that, like, I always equate this to the fact that we're living in an incredibly unnatural way, right? This is why I call it, and I say the problem is the patriarchy, and I simply kind of put it there. Um, so depending on who you talk to, definitely not the evangelicals and a lot of the really hyper religious people.
Yeah.
They're going to say that, you know, human beings in this form have been around for 5,000, 10,000, whatever they believe. But those of us who have an education know that, you know, modern human beings have been around for over 200,000 years, right?
Yep.
In pretty much in the same form that we are now. About 10,000 years ago, something happened. There was a major shift about 10,000 years ago, and it's when hunter gatherers started farming, right? And then started perfecting farming and irrigation.
Mhm.
And up until 10,000 years ago, we were in a matriarchal society. The matriarch was the most important figure and member in that home front. And so, which made sense, right? Because the home and you're hunter gatherers, you're growing your food as well. Slowly, you're getting into that. It's really the children and taking care of the home and hearth. That is what was important. Men's job was to go out and hunt, and women's was to really run the home, and that was the matriarchy. What happened about 10,000 years ago is that when we start farming and that irrigation comes in, and you know, we get to that point where we are, you get to that point where we actually now have an excess as well, right? That's the other thing, is that what happens about 10,000 years ago is that we have this excess in food. And so what is the next thing that we do? Well, you and I were growing in our home, Pej, we're growing, I don't know, carrots and potatoes, and we've got a few sheep. The neighbor down the road has fruit, and let's say they've got chickens.
Yeah.
When you now have an excess of you know,
Supply.
of your supplies, what do you end up doing? Well, you end up trading. And now you've got the development of trade. I'm going to give you a couple chickens, you give me, you know, half a lamb. I'm going to give you some apples, you give me some potatoes. What is that? What is that now? Now that's currency, right?
Mhm.
Once you have that excess and that currency and you've got that trade going on, you now have to protect that trade. So how do you protect it? You protect it by creating what we now have as a military. And who are you going to choose? You're going to choose the physically stronger members to fight off the other physically stronger members. And that's traditionally the males, right? And now who's going to run that military? Who's going to oversee it? Who's going to lead it? It's going to be one of those men. And that's when about 10,000 years ago, when we started developing cities and we started kind of saying we need to protect, you know, what we have and you know, the value of our trade. You now have the development of the patriarchy. And
Yeah.
that's where everything went to shit. That's
Yeah.
where people started then fighting and warring for land, because land means food, land means money, land means the value. And now you've got war and you've got conflict and you've got all that sort of thing. So we deviated about 10,000 years ago from what was our natural state. And we're seeing the culmination of that today. We're seeing it basically on steroids and going to a huge degree. And to me, that's the root of the problem. We have to change completely the way that we see things. We have to look towards our indigenous communities. We have to look towards those that have maintained you know, the matriarchy and the matriarchal, as well as, you know, the male side of things. Unfortunately, we've gone to the extreme at this point, and we're seeing it every day in the news. We're seeing it in Palestine. We're seeing it around the world.
Yeah,
Anyways, with that,
yeah.
yeah, go
Egyptian is
ahead.
back. Egyptian is back. We were just talking about well, we were talking about the idea of patriarchy 10,000 years ago. Mo was just breaking that down, and how that was kind of like the inception of where things were to go for humanity and where it is now. But um, one last point on this is that, do you think that not do you think do you have any information on the evolutionary time of the human mind, and if the greed aspect spiked during that time? Like, did
Um,
I'm not aware of anything.
okay.
I think it's really just something that's innate
But I think
in
I
human
feel
beings.
that, yeah, I feel that, I mean, it's the it is the denominator behind how it's become corrupt, how it's become extreme, how it's become, what it is now. The greed for power, the greed for ownership, the greed for all of that, right? And then
Yeah.
and that combined with mental health in general, is it's got to be we got to allow. I feel like we need to let that to continue to evolve, and I'm wondering where we will be in 10,000 years, right? I'm wondering where the human mind will go in that next evolutionary timestamp, and see, like, have we reconnected with our morals? Have we
Mm.
reconnected with, our need for each other more so than for ourselves? You know, it
Do you see greed as the source, or do you see it as a symptom? Like, do you
I
see greed as the initial thing that we're contending with, or is it a symptom of something else? Sorry, is what I meant.
it could be the symptom of ego. It could be not. I don't know that. I haven't, but that's a great question. But let's bring Egyptian into this. Egyptian, um first of all, did it go 0 dark 30 on you real quick? That's
yeah, I'm
yeah.
in my garage right now, so
Okay, gotcha.
I'm
Gotcha.
I'm trying to keep it as professional as possible. I told myself I wouldn't be one of those people that walk around outside while I'm doing an interview, an important interview. This, but
It's all right. No worries, man. It's all good. But yeah, what do you think, Egyptian? Do you think that greed is the symptom or the
I've
source?
heard I've heard many aspects on this. People can, when you're like when or like when you were, let's say like when you were a kid, and like you're with your family, and like they serve like noon and stuff, and then
Yeah.
you start like cramming your face full of carbs, and they're just like, oh, shikamu nabu,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like don't be shikamu.
Yeah.
And in that sense you'd be kind of greedy, um for the bread. And
Right.
in that sense also people like saying greed is good as a ways of like expressing that they are worth more and therefore they want more, materialism. And that kind of reminds me of a lesson I learned in school about what Mo was saying about the human mind and how you can switch on humanity. And I think that reminds me of when the Spanish conquered the natives. Um,
I 100%. Uh,
It's the colonialism playbook, right? It's quite literally what happens everywhere. It happened with the Spanish, it happened with the English when they came, it happened with the French to a less degree, but they did the exact same thing in North America. And if we're
it's
looking at
like
current
people never
events,
learn. It's
yeah,
like
it's what happened. It's what happened in Palestine, right? You
yeah.
go back. There were Jewish refugees that needed a place to stay. The Palestinians opened their hearts and their homes to them. There's a really great, and maybe I'll actually I'll edit that video in of Mohammed Hadid telling the story into this podcast as well. Gigi Hadid and Bella Hadid's father, right? He's a very
Mm.
well known architect down in LA, incredibly successful man. Palestinian. He's from Haifa, is where his family is from, and he talks about how he remembers his father, who was one of the people that actually built the dock in Haifa. How when there was two ex-American military vessels that were converted to transport refugees from Europe after World War II, when they arrive in Haifa, then you see the photos and they have that sign saying, we're escaping persecution in Europe. Please accept us. And Muhammad Hadid remembers at this point how his parents, actually, he was born shortly after that. His parents brought two families into their home and welcomed them and gave them a place to stay. And within a couple of years later is when Muhammad Hadid is born. And this is also when the Nakba happens, right? This is when the expulsion, the murder, the theft of land initially starts, or not initially, but really hits a major catastrophic level. And Bella Hadid's grandmother, Muhammad Hadid's mother, takes him to a neighboring village to go and see his family. He wants to visit his grandparents and show them the baby and all that. They return, and their doors are locked, and they won't be let back into their home because the refugees that they had allowed to come have now just said, sorry, pound sand, leave. This is our home now. And so it's a very similar thing where you look at the conquistadors who come and they take that generosity from the indigenous people in southern or in South America, and they do the same thing, and then in North America with the English and French.
Safad, which is the city that my father lived there for hundreds of years, and the grandfather and great-grandfather and so on, went down to when a ship came from Poland, Jewish refugees from Poland and Germany, whatever, and they went to several countries first, went to America, and then went to Cuba, and they wouldn't let them off, so they came to Haifa. And funny enough, Haifa is a port that my great-grandfather built, rebuilt. And my parents and some families went down to Safad, and they picked up some Jewish families from, to them they were refugees, and they had a banner on the side of their boat saying, we lost our homes in Germany and our hope. Don't let us our hope here in your country. So, and they took two families, each took two families, and others did, and they brought them to our house, to my father's house. And they lived with us for 2.5 years. And when my mother was pregnant with me. I was born in Nazareth, because my mother went to Nazareth to her parents' house or grandfather's house, wherever they're called their home. She had me. And I was 9 days old when she came back to Safad to take me inside our home. And we were locked out. The fact I came back home and they wouldn't even let us into our home when my mother begged them to get a shershef or something to put around me, they wouldn't let her. So she moved on down to the refugee camp in Syria somewhere.
Quite literally an insane switch up that happens. Like to respond to love in that way, I just feel like it's
heartless.
It's just like, yeah, like what is it? What is the mental health issue there that it's allowing like us to see it so obviously?
It's concerning. It's super concerning because you are wondering like what goes through your mind.
So this is why I asked the question: do you feel that greed is a symptom? Have you guys heard of Maslow's pyramid? It's
I
like
have
this.
heard of it. I need a refresher though.
Okay, so Maslow's pyramid. Maslow came up with this theory that there are, and I wanted to mention a pyramid because you're here, Gyptian, and you love pyramids. But Maslow's pyramid is this idea that there are certain things that human beings need to be happy, need to thrive, and need to succeed. And the reason they call it a pyramid is that the base at the bottom is the heavier needs that we have to first fulfill until we can get up to the top and reach the top of the pyramid. And so the very first, and this is a simplified way of putting it, because I think some people have it broken down into 5, and then there's subgroups and that sort of thing. So we'll stick with the 5. But the very first is physiological needs. right?
Yeah.
And that's food, water, warmth, rest. The second, safety needs, security and safety. The third, intimate relationships and friends, belongingness and love needs.
Mm-hmm.
The top two are esteem and then self-actualization. So that's kind of like the higher level, achieving your full potential, your creative faculties, all that sort of thing. As a society, I feel as though we're stuck in those basic needs, in those first two rungs. And that's when the symptom of greed kicks in. When you feel as though your ability to have food, water, warmth, shelter, rest, when you feel as though your security and safety is at risk, that's when your carnal, very basic urges then kick in. And that's, I think, what greed is. Because you feel as though, okay, well, now I've got this in front of me, but am I going to have it tomorrow? So even with your example of going to a mehmuni, right, and they've got someone's made like a kick-ass tachin, and you definitely
Yeah.
love it, and you're like, I am going to overeat because you know what? Tomorrow I'm not going to have leftovers of this, so let me eat
Yeah.
as much as I can. So that's like a really simplified version of what I'm talking about. But when you take a look at the macrocosm of that, and people who are feeling as though I'm going to lose my home next month, I may not have food on the table for my family. And that's the situation that we're in most of
It's
the
a very
world in Europe,
magnetized version of it.
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's when that greed kicks in, because you kind of go, look, I don't need more than X, but I better get more than X because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because I'm so unsure. So what's the solution to that? For me, as a proud socialist and an absolute tree hugging socialist lefty that people can hate for that, I don't really give a shit, but that's who I am. I think once you're able to actually fulfill those basic needs for everybody, that's when they're able to then elevate themselves and get rid of a lot of those really base things, like the greed, like the hate, like the war. Because what are wars fought for? They're fought for resources. They're
Right.
fought for land, right? And so it's exactly those first two rungs of that pyramid, right? Those basic needs. That's what wars are fought for. Wars aren't fought for intimate relationships and friendships. Wars aren't fought for creativity. Wars aren't fought for higher intellectualism. Wars are fought for those basic things. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop pontificating, and I want to hear what you guys think. And feel free to tell me I'm full of shit. I have no idea what I'm talking about because I
You're
love
so
hearing that.
full of shit, dude. No, no, I'm not even high. I don't know why I said it like that. But no, it's Egyptian. Yeah, let us know. What are your thoughts?
Um, I Pedge, uh I fully agree with Mo. You know, I it's I agree with him on most things. As a part of like I'm not really I'm like I said, I grew up in Maryland. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I learned that not everyone I come across is, oh, hey, let's be friends. I'll share all of this with you and da, 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 da. Like I'm not really as giving as I used to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's because I've seen what this world can take from you. I also believe like some people deserve more of my energy than other people deserve. And it's ultimately my choice and my energy that I will share with you. If I shared my energy with you, consider yourself lucky because my energy is different from everyone else's energy. And but going back to what like the war on resources and stuff, I think it's really sad as well because, and I'm not saying that we should have more war and disagreements and stuff. I mean, it's okay to have disagreements, but there shouldn't be this many casualties. It's still, but I think it's just sad that it's constantly over resources. It's never over. It's never over like creativity or intimacy, and for me, I'm blessed with a home and an accepting, supportive family, friends and stuff, and yet I still need that kind. I'm still looking for that kind of intimate understanding, um,
Right.
and that's something I'll learn to overcome on my own terms and in my own time. But until then, I feel like it's just I feel like I need to focus on image and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something. Like, when we talk about wars and conflicts and all that sort of thing, because this is what I firmly believe, and I want to see what you guys think.
Mhm.
When you have to go and murder someone, like when you have to resort to killing another human being in order to prove a point or to gain something, haven't you already failed at that point as a leader?
Yeah.
As a
I think you. Yeah.
leader, or as a soldier?
No, no. As a leader, as a country, as a nation, as a system, if your solution to I've got an issue with you, so let's now see who can kill the other, if that is where it arrived, haven't you failed? Haven't you failed at
Yeah,
that point?
yeah, definitely.
I
If
think
you're,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think it goes back to the evolutions of uh, digging into like the tribalism
Yeah.
that was embedded in early humans, and I think that is still in a lot of us, and I'll dare say it's in. If I'm not cognizant of it, it lives in me too. Like we all have it, but we just have to control it and understand that our morals have to have much more priority over in these moments of disagreements than our than what that other voice is attempting to scream out, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Egyptian,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
I I I agree. I agree with that. Just I couldn't, and I'm kind of experiencing this at my school. People are surprisingly very territorial there, and I don't really know why, but just having getting or it's interesting being able to see, and again, I talked with Pedge about this, about the close-mindedness and the short-sightedness of not being open and aware of what's been going on in the world. And even if you choose to stay neutral about it. I've seen, I it pisses me off in a sense, that you're like supporting another organization that has that's newer than this, that's newer than this, and just not paying attention, or not, or just dismissing is a better word, for of something that's been that's been older than all of us, and it's not nothing's changing. Of course people die every day, but there's a difference between dying and getting murdered,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. I think everyone can agree that.
Yeah. I learned something recently through my job. I do have a job, so stop saying I live in my room.
Nice.
And I I was working with we were having a conference. So like, I have some students. I'm a teacher for those who don't know, during the day. And I teach young kids. I teach first and second grade. And they we have some like kids who are having some issues with each other, and they're like there's some social challenges in like during recess and even during class times at some points. And um the person who like is leading our group of teachers uh mentioned that kids are forgiving to your mistakes, like towards them, up until second grade. After second grade, they will make a decision and stick with it. As in, so if you like, if I keep like bothering Mo during recess, right? Like, or if
Mhm.
I keep like trying to disrupt his peace, and if he's a kindergartner, he's gonna be like, um, that's like he might cry, like he might cry now. Even me just
I
telling him,
do. I do a lot. A couple times a day at least.
yeah. Every time
It's
I
okay.
bully
It's
him.
okay to be emotional.
That's right,
Yeah.
Mo. You can be emotional about my bullying.
Yeah.
My cornflakes get soggy. That's the only problem.
Well,
I
don't
cry
fall
over that
asleep.
too.
Yeah, yeah. Don't fall asleep at the cereal bowl. That's what I say. Um,
Yeah.
so if I bother him, right, and he's in kinder, and let's say I'm in kinder for the sake of comparison, and he's gonna allow me the next day to have another chance, and the next day to have another
Mhm.
chance, and the next day to have another chance. And this is a study that they've done, and this said, and he said, but that happens until around second grade. Like, so then if in second grade I'm like, give me your cornflakes, right? He's gonna be like, fuck you, dude. Like,
That's
we're
where you
done.
draw the line.
Yeah, like
Kind
we're done. I'm an adult now, right? And then he's gonna go hang out with other people and cut me out of his circle, right? So, but that's interesting to know that, like, even at that young age in second grade, like, we
That's
create.
super funny. I mean, my cousin is 13 and he calls himself a grown ass man all the time, and I'm just like, I laugh at him because it's just hilarious how in his mind he thinks he's like so much more mature. I mean, he's not. He doesn't act on that
Yeah,
statement, but it's just still funny.
it is funny. My cousin used to do that too, and then I just kicked him in the chest, and then
Yeah,
he
just a
and,
reality check.
and then he was like, yeah, I guess I have some more growing to do." And then I hugged him, and then it was okay.
Yeah.
We don't talk anymore. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. No, you're right. It's but anyway, this idea of, like, even in second grade,
Mhm.
we create little. Obviously, the cause and effect there is the reason, right? But it doesn't have to be that obvious, and it still can be happening, right? It doesn't have
Little
to
back,
be like the
little back.
bullying. It doesn't even have to be bullying. Yeah, it could just be like you said, Egyptian. Like, in school, it's hard to find groups of people that are accepting, right? It's
Mhm.
like, and they haven't even had one conversation with you, perhaps, and
Nope, not
and
one.
right. So I'm not saying you're in second grade. I'm saying you're,
No, 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 no.
but it
Hey,
happens. Like,
I'd
yeah.
love to go back to second grade.
It feels for me like you're in the second grade because I'm just so damn old. That's what it feels like for me. But
Yeah.
everyone I meet who was born past 2000. I'm assuming you were born past 2000, right?
2002. Yep.
There you go. Anyways,
Dang,
I
you
don't
didn't
know
even
why,
see In Sync. That's crazy.
right? And you automatically go like, how young does this person? Like, they should be in diapers, and you're like, no, he's 21. He's 21.
I
That's
can
what it's like.
drink. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
that's right.
for the old salty guys like me, it feels, anyone born after 2000 is a baby. You
Yeah.
know.
No, Mo, you're a cute old man. It's not.
Oh, thank you.
You're one of the good ones.
Should I grab my cane next time, and I'll bring my cane.
That's fine. I don't know why you
I'll
need a
shake.
cane when
I'll
you're
shake.
seated.
I'll shake my cane. No, because I can shake my cane when I get angry. Isn't that what old men
As
do?
long
They
as you don't have the beads that all the fucking old
tasbih.
people.
I'll bring.
Yeah.
I'll bring a tasbih as
The
well. Absolutely.
Tasbis. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
So what I did when I was in Iran, I went and I found, because there's a certain type of tasbih that Shah Massoud, right? Like the stones are very they're beautiful, right?
mhm.
And they're only found in certain areas in eastern Iran and mostly Afghanistan. But I went and found a couple like antique tasbihs that were like that, and then I took it to this guy. That's their job. Like there's tasbih makers. Like, of course there are, because we have them. But like, you go to the bazaar and there's like an area where there's people just making tasbih, right? And then so I gave it to them, and I went and bought like little gold pomegranates, and then I also went and found like this antique stamp, or no, not a stamp. It's yeah, it's a stamp basically. When you back in the day when they would like the wax seals, right? They would do like yeah. So one of those, and then I got them to reweave them and then tie those on. So they're actually quite nice. So I
Yeah.
will bring a tasbih and a cane, and I'll shake them all about and just make this really.
Mo wants to like be old so bad, and he's not even that old. That's what's hilarious.
I have a
Like,
Mo. I have a question.
Yeah.
So, would you? Because I used to be into jewelry. I still am, but I was more into like the gemstones and the Sanoi Dasti. I would always find them in the Sanoi Dasti section of the bazaar, and
what does that mean for people who don't speak
Sanoi
Farsi?
Dasti is like arts and crafts, but it's
Okay.
like
Yeah,
very
handcrafts.
advanced arts and
Handcrafts.
crafts, and
Okay.
it's very emphasized.
All right.
But yeah, would you count tasbih making as like being a jeweler and stuff?
Um, it depends. I think in some cases, yeah, there's some that are absolutely stunning, and then there's actually an
Yeah.
art to it as well, right?
Yeah.
You have to size the stones a certain way so that they grow in size and then come back down
Yeah.
again, and then they actually go in and shave the stones in to give them different shapes and that's what. So I think so. I think so. I would say so. I usually just wear them as bracelets. I'm not a religious guy. Pej knows. I fucking hate religion. I'm so ready to go burn in hell if there is one. I think it's going to be nice and warm, and all the interesting people will be there. I'll be hanging out with a lot of your favorite performers as well once they get
That's
down
a
there.
great,
I'm sure.
great way to think about it. That's a great
I
way
don't
to
want to
think.
go. I don't want to go to heaven with the mullahs and Khamenei and Soleimani. If that's where they're going, fuck man, no. Take me down south. I want to take a little trip south of the border if that's the case. I'm not going to
Oh, yeah.
go. I'm not going to go up there. But anyway, what I'm getting at is, I usually wear them as just bracelets or necklaces because I find them beautiful. So I would definitely say I see them as jewelry because I definitely don't see them
Yeah.
as anything spiritual. But
I
I think,
forgot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I forget how some things can be cannot be made out of precious material and be still considered art. Like for example, the paper and stuff. I really appreciate my art class. My art professor, if you see this, shout out to you. Um,
yeah.
but she taught me like working with different materials such as paper and stuff. I actually went to I actually interned at a at a jeweler shop, and they kind of they use like threads, and they even it's weird, they use animal hair as like bracelets and materials, and I don't know, human hair is where I draw the line because that's like no, I don't really,
I was
but
just about to give you a handful of my chest hair,
yeah.
but okay.
Yeah, no,
why are you picking your chest hair? What's going on, man?
I
What
just
are you
need to
doing?
trim. It's a lot. It's
All right.
acting up. I need to, yeah.
I think the epilation stage of this call is probably a good time to maybe wrap things up a little bit.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Lil Gyptian, man, thank you for joining us. It's
Thank
always really
you.
great to
Thank you.
kind of
It was
get.
a very today.
Yeah, no,
Hell
it's
yeah.
nice to kind of have a young, and I can say this, a younger generation come out and get your get your viewpoint on a lot of the stuff. We hope to see you. We hope to see you performing soon.
Yeah.
We hope to see you
Yeah.
succeed in your art and your craft. And we'll be
And you're
cheering you
back
on.
on, yeah. And welcome back on, man, anytime. Like
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
if when you have new music, right? Just let us know. We want
Of
to plug it
course.
for you. Yeah.
I'm definitely making a lot of new art. I'll be posting soon. By the end of the semester, I'll have a lot of I'll do a segment showing all of the art that I made, all of the stuff I produced in my music class and stuff, and hopefully the school might see me a little bit differently. If they don't, that's fine. Opinions are opinions.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want to plug your Instagram for people to
Oh yeah.
find you? Yeah.
Well, I hate being that guy, but yeah, follow me at Lil Gyptian Wolf on all platforms.
There you go.
I could definitely use the media and stuff, and yeah.
There you go.
Right on, brother.
Follow Lil Gyptian Wolf. Lil Gyptian, man, appreciate you jumping on. And
Of course.
yeah, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep shining. We need more people like you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All
Right
right.
on, my brother.
Hafiz Hamigi.
See you, bud.
Mm-hmm. He was a good kid.
He's a great yeah, man. It gives me hope that, at least that generation can maybe right this ship that's going down. It's your fault.
So,
but yeah.
is it my fault? Yeah, is it? So before I get into more dour things, do you have any current events that can maybe lighten the mood a little bit?
Yeah, the
or-
LA Clippers have traded for basically all the stars of the 2015s till now to try to salvage a championship. What's going on? You got James Harden, you got that's the latest one they traded for from Philly. I like the Clippers. I just think this was a little bit extra, but if it culminates in a championship, then it was worth it. But I don't know if it will. I feel like it's kind of Clippers have been, unfortunately, LA's stepchild for a long time. The Lakers is where everybody leans to, and that's the team to cheer for. Clippers, unfortunately, and that's actually why I cheer for the Clippers. I like the Clippers. I wouldn't say that's my favorite team, obviously, because of the hat, but I do want them to succeed. Kawhi Leonard, I really like. Paul George is such an amazing dribble pop-up shooter. You probably don't even watch basketball, so I don't know what I'm saying, but
No.
you do?
No, I you know what? I used to watch basketball back in the day. I don't anymore. I don't watch a lot of sports, man.
Let me ask you this: when the Raptors, the fever of the Raptors took over Canada, were you no?
No.
Okay, because
No.
Kawhi
I guess
Leonard
I was
became
pissed off. Yeah. I guess I was pissed off when we lost the Grizzlies in Vancouver. So
yeah.
it was and the way that all happened, the fact that they actually brought they brought the franchise in because they were trying to get two Canadian teams in, and then immediately within less than 2 years they were moving it down south, and it seemed like it seemed as though that was the plan from the beginning when we kind of looked into it. But yeah, it was. And so after that happened, I stopped watching basketball with any sort of a regular basis, because when you get into it, right?
That would make sense. You were from Vancouver, right? So
Yeah.
if it helps you feel any better, their star player is suspended 25 games because he keeps brandishing his gun on Instagram Live. So that's.
Are you serious?
So yeah, so he did it twice in the span of like 2 months, and after the first time, he's like, I've learned a lot, I'm growing, and then a week later, he's doing it again. So that's the Memphis Grizzlies now in a nutshell, and they're 0-6, I think, as far as the time of this episode.
Wow.
Well, anyway, there's some NBA news. But yeah, do you want to have some closing thoughts before we wrap this baby?
There's a couple things I wanted to bring up that are related to the conversations that we've been having, but it has more to do with what's happening both in my country and yours. And I'm seeing some things that are concerning me, and people I think need to be aware of and kind of see what's going on. I know that there's a growing anti-immigrant, xenophobic move kind of happening in both our countries right now. I'd love to kind of get a little bit of your take on this too, but I'm gonna mention two things that really concerned me over the last couple of days. One which happened yesterday, the other a couple of days ago. So Canada, what they've done is, with that pressure, they've actually frozen their limits of immigrants that can come into the country. So yearly, they kind of refresh these numbers and increase them. But they've said for the next 3 years, they're going to be limiting the amount of immigration that's coming into the country, and they're actually bringing those numbers down. And they're putting a lot of contingencies on there as well, as far as language and that sort of thing. The thing that really concerned me down in the States was this Republican congressman, Ryan Zinke. He actually proposed a bill the other day to expel Palestinians from the U.S. A lot like the Muslim ban that Trump had brought in. No more immigration from Palestine, period. No more visas to Palestinians, period. And then he's actually proposing to basically expel current immigrants of Palestinian descent out of the U.S. And this bill was proposed in the House just a couple days ago. So, thoughts, my brother?
Oh my God, I hadn't heard of that. It's I wish I could say I'm surprised at this point with the agenda of these. Now these guys are old heads. Okay, the agenda of these all jokes aside, these guys are archaic. They are. I think Neanderthals have better logic than and hearts than these guys do. I just think the moral fabric of America is just out, man. With the moral fabric of American politics, I do believe it was there at one point in American politics. It was there. I don't know about Canadian politics, but in American politics, I believe, to a certain, maybe like I want to say it took a big shift around Carter, like, but I think before then, morals and maybe it's, and I'm not looking at this as an excuse, but just as a happenstance. But the hippie era and all that, I think really emphasized the idea of love and inclusivity and bringing
Mhm.
people in. And I think the politics took that, uh, and then when we came out of that, they really came out of that. And I think morally and just ethically, all of that just went out the window, and it's gotten worse and worse. I would say Clinton revived it a little bit in the 90s, and then it went back to shits again, with Bush taking over and all the way up till
Yeah.
this news.
But
Zinski,
didn't
you
we
said his
see
name?
Zenki?
Zinke.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the name is
Yeah.
stupid. Like
Yeah.
Zinke.
Zinke is the way it's spelled.
Zen.
Ryan
Yeah.
Zinke.
Ryan Zinke.
So here's the thing: didn't we go down this path already? Like I remember during the Korean War, there was a lot of calls for this. During the Vietnam War, there were calls for this. During World War II, they quite literally did this to Italians and Japanese Americans and Canadians, put them in internment camps. So I think there's a long history of this
Yeah.
sort of thing. We haven't evolved. We haven't evolved very much, and American politics seems to be degenerating
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. And then
Yeah.
it's influencing Canadian politics too, because we've got I call him the gap greeter. The prime minister Justin Trudeau. That's essentially what he is. He's about as useless as a gap greeter, standing at the front door just saying hi. As soon as you ask him a question, I have no idea.
There's
I'm
a
only
video
I'm only
of
here to
people
look pretty.
calling him out too. He's walking, and they say, "Hey, you got blood on your hands. What's happening in the Middle East is on you."
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
yeah,
Melanie Joly as well, like the foreign minister. She was yesterday or the day before as well. There were some activists that went out and called her out on what they're doing. Um, Canada has sent money and arms as well. The U.S. You saw this in Oakland, in your neck of the woods yesterday. Did you see that? There was a protest at the docks
yeah.
in Oakland because there was another ship about to leave
Yes, I did see that. Yeah,
full of
and
weapons
they
to
tried to
murder
stop it.
children,
Yeah, yeah,
to murder kids, right? And
right.
so protesters went in, they put themselves in harm's way, they got on the ladders on the ship, they did all that, so they had to pull it back in and they had to dock and they couldn't leave.
Yeah,
That was yesterday, but
yes.
we don't know what happened today. That was also an interesting one as well. But yeah, the US and Canada are supplying arms, weapons, money, vehicles, bombs. The bombs that are literally being dropped on the heads of those children arrived a couple weeks ago from the US with
Yeah,
love, and they're being used to murder. So this is the part where I look at every single American citizen and I go, it is your responsibility to stand up. Your government is now giving the means for genocide somewhere else. And if you're not going to do it out of decency, do it out of self-preservation, because these sort of policies are what led to 9/11.
mm-hmm.
These sort of policies are what have led to foreign, American nationals overseas being taken as hostages or being
Mm-hmm.
targeted and attacked. This is what happens to cause people bombing ships, American ships and consulates and that sort of thing around the world.
Yeah.
Stop fucking around. Stop, supplying these dictatorships with the weapons that they need to oppress their people, and others, and maybe there'll be less animosity in the world. But
Well, I think that's what I was saying about the moral fabric is dead. There's just the only thing we were talking about this earlier, but there's another version of it. It's the 5 avenues of life. But you called it the pyramid, right? But there's the 5 avenues of life, and the smallest, shortest finger, and the most useless finger on our hands is the pinky, and that is the financial health, right? It's considered the smallest and it's the last of the five healths of the mind and body. Spiritual health is the first one, the thumb. It's the most mobile, and then it's the physical, then the mental, and then the emotional, and finally financial. The the U.S. government it makes its policies like this, in my opinion, and basically this thing is drowned, right? There is none of that. There is no spirit in the politics. So which ties into what I'm saying. So the Oakland situation yesterday, when the people are stepping up, with all the pressers and of Trudeau that's been interrupted, of Biden, of Hillary, all of that is kind of strengthening my opinion and notion that we're headed towards a revolution on a world scale. Yeah. I feel like we're headed that way. I think the Iran revolution kind of woke some people up. It allowed people to realize, wait a minute, you can break the back of these corrupt leaders. You can break the back of these corrupt policies. And then Afghanistan started doing it, and now you're seeing it here in the States, in New York. You see it in Oakland. You see it in Canada. Ukrainians and Russians are arm in arm now, and they're opposing the corruption of that war, of Zelensky and Putin. And it's like you're seeing it pop up in small doses all around the world. And I think it's going to get bigger and bigger till this flame just takes over the entire world.
I think it's because people are realizing, right? People are realizing that this is all manufactured from these governments. Like they're trying to keep people hungry, scared.
Yeah. And it's not working.
Yeah. And people are realizing who their actual enemy is. The enemy is the one that has been saying that they're trying to protect you. Listen to us because we're trying to protect you.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's because on the American scale, and you can touch on the Canadian side, but the economy of America is so broken from before all of these empty promises that we're trying to protect you and all, so that people are like, no, you aren't, right? It's like people are just not buying it. There's so the financial of American middle class is so broken that the middle class is almost is diminishing before our eyes. Like there's almost middle class, like at least the lower middle class is just starting to go towards it's almost done. So when that's already a daily battle for the people, then you tell them, oh, we need to side with Netanyahu and we're trying to protect you. People are like, fuck off, dude. Like we're over it. And I think we've emotionally have gotten a lot stronger and smarter. And I think people, and again, internet is our tool to cut through the bullshit and see the truth. There's a bunch of Reddit and Discords that people are on that are learning what's really happening. There's Telegram chats that are happening directly with victims in Palestine, in Gaza, or in Iran, or in Afghanistan, or in Ukraine. And you're getting
can't ignore it anymore.
You can't bullshit anymore. The people are trusting the people because we are sharing the real information now. It's no longer, there's no mask of, oh, this is because they're Democrats or this is because they're Republican. That shit is fading, and it's fast, right? And I'm assuming it's the same over there. Like people are getting less and less interested in what political lens you're coming from, but rather if you're being a good human being or not.
I'd say that you've got both. You've got the individuals who have doubled down on the religious dogma and the political dogma and the tribalism, and then you've got the younger generations and people that are a little bit more enlightened, like you and I, who don't see it that way, right? Who try to look at the bigger picture. I still think it's a pretty decent split. I'm hoping as generations age out, and by that I mean the old fuckers start dying so that they can make space, that things will improve and we'll be at a point where we can actually evoke change. But until then, until we can get the geriatrics out of politics and get the power out of their hands, and again, like you said, maybe it's a revolution. Maybe that's what has to happen. Maybe we need to go to our respective capitals with pitchforks, and demand change. Maybe
I
that's
think I
what needs
think
to
I
happen.
think it has to be it has to go to the basics, like the bottom of that pyramid. I think when that's missing, we don't really care about the rest, right? It's like I don't need to have the top part when I don't even have food on my table. Like I
Yeah.
don't it's and that is the biggest beginning of the end for these people in power. And I think that they ignored that. Khamenei ignored that. Biden is ignoring that. Netanyahu is ignoring that, and they're all ignoring that because they're so fucking caught up in their one percenters, right? And they're so caught up in what's coming in, what that final check is going to say, and as a
Yeah.
result, when you don't have when you can have that check, but you don't have a country to run anymore, what's the point, right?
That's
It's
the thing,
like
and we're seeing it, right? We're seeing it
yeah,
around us. I don't know if it's like this in the States. I assume it would be, but I take a look at. Do you ever go to the dollar store? They're no longer dollar stores. They're like
you mean
$5
the
stores,
yeah
but
exactly yeah
yeah,
5 and
yeah, yeah,
above yeah.
yeah, like those places. Um, Something that's absolutely depressed me. I go to the dollar store. Sometimes you want to buy a card for someone who's not family. You want a cheap, birthday card or something. I'll go there if you want tin
Just
foil or things like that to make a hat.
yeah.
To
By the
to
way,
keep.
anyone who's not friends with Mo, now you know where the gifts are coming from. But
No, the gifts are coming from decent places, but the card that they're going to throw in the recycling bin is going to be from the dollar store. But
Walmart,
something that
that's where
I've
the gifts are
noticed
coming.
recently,
Yeah.
there you go. But one thing that I've seen in recent years is the amount of groceries that are now in dollar stores and the amount of people that are buying food from the dollar store. And I'm talking about I'm not buying canned food from developing nations halfway across the world. Like
Mhm.
that is a little bit sketchy
Mhm.
in for me. Maybe I'm a bit of an elitist. I used to be in the food business, so maybe that's why. But I just find it really, really scary and really sad that we've gotten to the point where in order for people to make ends meet, they yeah, the
It's
dollar
hot.
store is now
Yeah.
carrying food.
It
Like
you start again. I think it goes back to my point. The more you take away the basic needs of human beings, the more they're gonna not give a fuck, and they're just gonna be like, I don't care about your view on like the the tax brackets. Who gives a shit? You guys aren't like we all. It's becoming more and more obvious who's winning in that realm and who's having to pay for it. And then it's getting worse and worse. And you know what? Let it get worse because it's gonna cause an explosion, and a beautiful one in which people hand in hand. I don't want to sound hippie, but it's happening. It's starting to happen. Like I'm not. This is not me just talking out of my ass like all the other times. It's me saying it's you're seeing it yourselves. Go look it up. You know how many in short order, and then we can wrap this up because I know I do have to get to another thing, but it's in short
something
order,
more
and
important than me, more important than me, Pesh.
I mean we don't have enough time for me to list how many
The
things
things
are.
that are more important to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Now that I know where you get my cards from, yeah. But yeah, it's in a span of a month, I've seen 4 videos of political figures getting interrupted.
Mm.
I had not seen that since, like I said, Bush getting a shoe thrown at him, like 25 years ago. So it's like that in itself should tell you something. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, let's.
The
It's getting
times they
uglier.
are changing. The
They are
times they are
changing.
changing.
Yes. We're all, again, if there's one message to leave this episode on is that um, I got nothing but love for anyone and everyone who is interested in humanity and wants to save humanity. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you are. I don't care how tall you are, how short you are, how much better looking you are, to a degree. And then, that's why my cutoff is Mo. Mo is just enough better looking than me that I can handle it. After that, it's we're done. But yeah, so
Oof.
much love to everyone. I think we're starting to show what we were hoping to show with this podcast. I think we're starting to show what the mindset was behind it. We'll have guests on of all ages, colors, races. It doesn't matter. Gyptian happened to be Iranian, but I actually didn't even know that till he asked to be on. So
I was assuming he was Egyptian.
That's what I thought. But
or a wolf. I thought it was either one of the other.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I did not assume he was Persian.
I love that you called him. Thanks for getting on, Lil Gyptian man. That was
I didn't. Did I say that?
Totally.
Did I say Lil Gyptian man?
Run the tape.
That's terrible. That's so bad. They're calling me a little man. Why did I call him a little man? That's terrible.
You'll get him a card, and then
from the dollar store.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'll splurge. I'll go to Walmart for this one. That's all right. Nice. We'll do that.
Nice. Yeah. Feed Sam Walton even more. All right. Anyway, that's me. This has been episode 4. Let's see if the Clippers can win a few games now with Harden in the lineup. Let's see how that pans out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Spotify, and soon we'll have it on all the other platforms as well. I'm still working on that. And all the credit for the latest edits and posts go to Mo. He's been doing all that work. Yeah, he doesn't like attention like that. But
you're not happy with them. Is that what it is? You want to make sure that people know that
so
if
you don't like
good,
them, if you don't like them, it's not my fault. But no.
But next week we hope to be back with more guests. Like we definitely want to have more guests on.
Yes,
every week when we're doing this, and so it was a lot of fun, brother. And meeting Lil Gyptian man was also great. This time I said it on purpose. Now
you have to go to Target for your card. But
now I'm just being an asshole. That's all it is now. Do they make sorry for being an asshole cards?
I'm sure if you shop from the dollar store, there's a whole section.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just comes with you buying it from there. But anyway, no, it's been episode 4, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Bye.